Now we will read John Henry, an American Legend, Story and Pictures by Ezra Jack Keats. As we read, I want you to pay close attention to the pictures. Think about the challenges that John Henry's faced. John Henry. Look closely at the moon. This is how the sky looked the day that John Henry was born. A hush settled over the hill. The sky swirled soundlessly around the moon. The river stopped murmuring, and the wind stopped whispering, and the frogs and the owls and the crickets fell silent, all watching and waiting and listening. Then the river roared, and the wind whispered and whistled and sung. The frogs croaked, and the owls hooted, and all other crickets chirped. Welcome, welcome, echoed through the hills. And then John Henry was born. And John Henry was born with a hammer in his hand. Bang, 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 rang little John Henry's hammer through the cabin, and as he crawled about, "What's that rascal up to now?" his mama chuckled, and before she knew it, he was big enough to help her around the house. As he grew up, he did a man's work with his father. One day, John Henry thought, "I'm taller and I'm stronger than anyone around here. It's time I went into the world." He said goodbye to his mother and his father, and off he went. He worked on farms and in cotton fields, but all that was too tame. So he got himself a job on a riverboat. And there John Henry is, as he's on his way and saying his goodbye to his parents, on his way. One stormy night, the ship plowed through the darkness. Suddenly, the big steel rod that turned the paddles wheel broke. The wheel stopped turning. Smash went the rod through the bottom of the ship. "Pump water!" shouted the captain. "Get to the ports before we sink!" John Henry leaped to the paddle wheel crank, and he seized it and pulled. And grunted and pulled. Slowly the giant wheel turned. With all his strength, he kept it turning. "Lord Almighty, help us!" someone whispered in the long, long, dark night. As day broke, they sighed, shored, and pulled into shore. A thundering cheer went up for John Henry. John Henry felt a new excitement in the air. Men were talking of railroads being built from the Atlantic to the Pacific. They're going to lay those tracks over rivers, across prairies and deserts, and right through the mountains. And though Indians land and stampedes bubble herds and bad land, "Goodbye, boys," cried John Henry. "I'm going to swing me a hammer and throwing beautiful new tracks." "My hands are just itching to hold a hammer again," John Henry said. He tried one on for size and laughed. "It sure does feel bad." How he drove those spikes, singing to the clanging of his hammer. The men joined in, their voices singing, hammer ringing, and John Henry gang was in lead. As day after day the tracks moved steadily westward. Rising across their path was a sprawling mountain range. Its snow-capped peaks reached high into the clouds. "We'll have to tunnel through," said his friend Little Bill. "It'll be awful dangerous. Could be cave-ins," someone put in. "That suits me fine," said John Henry. "Me too," added Little Bill. "Here's how we'll do it, boys," the foreman called out. A couple of men drive a hole into the rock. Then the powder man put dynamite into the holes and exploded. The other cart the loose rocks away. We'll do this again and again until we have a tunnel right through the mountain. And it's gonna be a real big tunnel, boys. Big enough for a big locomotive, pulling one of them things long string of a train. All right, boys, blast away. Deep into the mountains they worked as John Henry's singing echoed through the tunnel. The powder mans got ready to blast more rocks. They filled the hole with dynamite, put it in a long fuse, and lit it. "Run, men!" cried the foreman. They all scrambled back, ready to dash clear of the blast. At that instant came a great cracking and rumbling, and the entire tunnel trembled around them. "It's a cave-in! We're trapped!" There was no place to run. The fuse burned closer to the dynamite. John Henry was the nearest to the fuse. He ran to put it out, but tripped and fell. "Oh, I'm hurt bad," he groaned. "I can't get up." The fuse burned farther out of his reach, and others rushed toward it, but they were too far away. Suddenly, John Henry remembered he still had his hammer in his hand. Down came the hammer, smack on the burning tip. The fuse was out. Danger past. Sighs of relief filled the smoky tunnel. "Phew! Help me up, boys," mumbled John Henry. Clearing their way through the cave-in, the men carried him to safety. This is as far as we will read today. I want you to think about what you saw and what you still have questions about.